Welcome to the Go Strong Gold channel. Black History Month is upon us, and for a lot of people that means reflecting on our past accomplishments. I think that for most people we spend a lot of time focusing on the civil rights movement of the 60s, and we think about things in pop culture and athletics. For a lot of us, we really want to dive deeper, and Black history is constantly being created right in our faces. So I wanted to create this video because I wanted to talk about all of the Black history greats that we don't get to hear about often. I promise you've never heard of these people. So without further ado, let's get this knowledge. So the first Black history great that I'm sure you've never heard of on the list is Mrs. Ursula Burns. Ursula Burns became the first black woman to be the CEO of a Fortune 500 company when she became the CEO of Xerox. Ursula M. Burns, born September 20th, 1958, is an American businesswoman and is now the chairman and CEO of Vion. In 2009, Burns became CEO of Xerox, making her the first black woman to be a CEO of a Fortune 500 company. She is also a senior advisor to international executive advisory firm Teneo, a member of the board of directors of Uber, and a non-executive director of Diageo since April 2018. Diageo's brands include Smirnoff, the world's best-selling vodka, Johnnie Walker, Bailey's, the world's best-selling liqueur, and Guinness. It also owns 37% of Moet Hennessy, which owns brands including Moet Chandon, Veuve Clicquot, and Hennessy. So every time you get in an Uber, you can think about her. That could be a good thing or a bad thing, but I'm sure what she's doing is great. Next one kind of comes at a peculiar time. I actually chose this person before the outbreak of the coronavirus, but it's kind of relevant to the story today. So the next person on the list is Onesimus. Onesimus was named after the runaway slave from the Bible, but Onesimus was actually a gift given to a Puritan slave owner in Boston. Onesimus, born in the late 1600s, was an enslaved African man who helped mitigate the impact of a smallpox outbreak in Boston. Held as a slave by Puritan minister Cotton Mather beginning in 1706, he introduced Mather to the principle and procedure of inoculation. After a smallpox outbreak began in Boston in 1721, Mather promoted inoculation as protection against it, citing Onesimus and his people as the source of the procedure. In 1716, or shortly before, Onesimus had described to Mather the process of inoculation that had been performed on him and others in his society in Africa. As Mather reported in a letter, people take juice of smallpox and cut the skin and put in a drop. So for all our inoculations, our flu shots, and all of our medicines that we've developed after that, in which we use the form of inoculation, we have Onesimus to thank, and I don't think you have ever heard about him. Number 3 is Bessie Coleman. Bessie Coleman is the first black woman to fly internationally. And I don't mean fly on the plane, she was actually the pilot, so there's that part. Bessie Coleman, born in Atlanta, Texas in 1892. Bessie Coleman grew up in a world of harsh poverty, discrimination, and segregation. She moved to Chicago at 23 to seek her fortune, but found little opportunity there as well. Wild tales of flying exploits from returning World War I soldiers first inspired her to explore aviation, but she faced a double stigma in that dream being both African American and a woman. She set her sights on France in order to reach her dreams and began studying French. In 1920, Coleman crossed the ocean with all of her savings and the financial support of Robert Abbott, one of the first African American millionaires. Over the next 7 months, she learned to fly, and in June of 1921, the Fédération Aéronautique Internationale awarded her an international pilot's license. Wildly celebrated upon her return to the United States, reporters turned out in droves to greet her. Coleman performed in numerous air shows over the next 5 years, performing heart-thrilling stunts, encouraging other black people to pursue flying and refusing to perform where blacks were not permitted. The next time you get on a plane and you're feeling frightful, just think of Bessie Coleman. She was daring and she was doing tricks in the air. So if she can do that, you can sit on the plane with a baby kicking the back of your seat. Okay, so this last one I'm so excited about because this is somebody who's still alive, and I always feel like you should give people their flowers while they're still alive. Not saying that everybody else is dead. Only one I think is dead is Bessie and Onesimus. It's time, time. This is someone who I adore and I'm so impressed by, mainly because I have this secret love of physics. And without further ado, let's just get right into it. The last person on this list is Dr. Shirley Jackson. Dr. Shirley Jackson was the first black woman to earn a doctorate in nuclear physics at MIT. In 1995, President Bill Clinton appointed Dr. Jackson to serve as chair of the U.S. Nuclear Regulatory Commission. Her experiments with theoretical physics paved the way for numerous developments in the telecommunications space, including the touch-tone phone, the portable fax, caller ID, call waiting, and the fiber optic cable. Jackson also led international efforts to promote nuclear safety, working in places including post-apartheid South Africa and the countries of the former Soviet Union. Nearly a decade after the 1986 accident, the site still had high radiation levels emanating from the destroyed reactor and radioactive contamination in a broad area around that plant. Jackson and her team helped the Ukrainians figure out what to do and how to seal this thing up. So even though she didn't create these things with her own experiments, the fact that she laid the foundation to all of these creations to be made is kind of like, it's one of those things that you should really be proud of, and you knew a black woman had to be cornerstone to the initial curve. I mean, getting screened in phone calls, it's because of black women. Putting together this list was not easy. There are so many people I read through in history, in modern day, in sports, in medicine, mostly in tech, and mostly women, that I was going through to try to figure out who I wanted to include in this video. I think these were some of the standouts for me, especially since we don't really hear about black impact in science and technology, and all of these people have some sort of impact in those fields. It's me from the future. When I was editing this video, I realized that I left off somebody who I thought definitely should have been in the video. I was thinking about it over and over and over again, and I knew there was one more person who deserved to be in this video, somebody I'm sure you've never heard of, who was definitely a Black History great. That person happens to be Dr. Alexa Canady. Alexa Canady is the first black woman to ever become a neurosurgeon. So here's a little bit about her. Alexa Canady earned a BS degree in zoology from the University of Michigan in 1971 and graduated from the medical school there in 1975. The summer after her junior year, she attended a program for minority students at the University of Michigan. That is where she fell in love with medicine. She explained, "I worked in Dr. Bloom's lab in genetics and attended a genetic counseling clinic. I fell in love with medicine." In her work as a neurosurgeon, she saw young patients facing life-threatening illnesses, gunshot wounds, head trauma, hydrocephaly, and other brain injuries or diseases. Throughout her 20-year career in pediatric neurosurgery, Dr. Canady has helped thousands of patients, most of them aged 10 or younger. Dr. Canady was chief of neurosurgery at the Children's Hospital of Michigan from 1987 until her retirement in June of 2001. When asked what her biggest obstacle was, she stated that it was convincing the neurosurgery chairman that she was not at risk to drop out or be fired, and that she wouldn't be a disaster in a program where there was only 1 or 2 residents per year. She was the first African American woman in the department, and along with that, another obstacle she encountered was convincing herself that she would be able to work as a neurosurgeon, that somebody would give her a chance. Who are some people you think I should have mentioned in this video? Do you think I should do a second video? Do you think there are even more stories that we don't even know about, that aren't written about, or that people don't have recollection of? If so, leave them in the comments below. And if you don't like or subscribe to this video, your memory will be erased. Men in Black style.